Hundreds of hours, late nights, blood, sweat, and tears. Built not bought, a dying breed.
Episode 13. It's been a small while since the last episode, 12 months, and a lot of reasons for that. Doing some work for some other people. I'm just out changing the fence for the cattle. It's a lovely morning. But yeah, episode 13. So this is filmed over the course of about a year, and the trials and tribulations, the motivations, the demotivations. I was also doing an academic course, and I'll be honest with you, it kind of sucked the creative life out of me. So yeah, take you on to the episode, and you'll see the progress. Not quite at the roof yet, but that is going to be the next stage, and we're going to keep pushing on now, and hopefully in the next 2 months get this shed finished, and we'll have a nice curved roof, just like the ones that inspired me for years, the old hay sheds. But we'll talk about that in the next episode. So off we go. I'm going to go back here this morning now. I'm going to work on the base for the generator, because as more and more time goes on, I need my trailer back, and I need to try and clear up some of the mess around here. But what I did get done is I got some footings poured for this frame. So basically I'm going to use the frame as the screed and the form for this base, and then I'm going to be able to screw sheeting onto the base of the frame and do away with a few things. Well, it's an experiment on my behalf. So I've got these corner brackets on it, and I've got this threaded bar in concrete at the corners, just rough. Now I couldn't do that corner, and I'll explain that again. So I've got these two corners here ready to go. So because I've threaded bar on there now, I can start leveling things up, and then once the frame is level, I can use the frame then to attach forms to the side for the concrete. And to do all that, I have a new rival. So I was previously using my Vivo level, but now we've got a Sola Evo 360 Pro. Got a level, a staff, and a tripod. I'll go into it in more detail, but we'll get set up now. So, by sheer happenstance, what I'm trying to achieve here is happening while I'm trying to level it out. So, the idea is that this frame is going to be the base of the shed, but it'll also have integral gullies in it, because this shed is going to be my paint, diesel and generator shed. So there's a likelihood that there could be an oil spill, a paint spill, and also on this side then, you know, you could have water coming in that you don't want either. So I've built in these, basically cut a pipe in half, and I've welded between the two boxes here, and then I'm going to put a bit of slotted uni strut down here as kind of my grate, and then I've got threaded connections here that I'll have a pipe going out to a sump, possibly two sumps, maybe a dirty and a clean. So a dirty for if there's oil, and then a clean one that I can also divert to the dirty one in case there's oil this side, if that makes sense. But that's for another day. But before I pour, I'm going to have to add a piece of pipe here and another piece of pipe here, and plan where that sump is going to be out yonder. But if this works pretty well, I'm going to use it everywhere on the shed. You could buy eco drain, but again, I'm trying to future proof this, that if there's heavy traffic, forklifts and that kind of stuff, I just don't think the eco drain is going to stand up over time. So that's the plan. So we'll get back to leveling. So now that is the slab of the generator shed poured, and I have to say it worked out kind of well. I had my doubts because hadn't done this type of thing before. So basically made up the frame, then set that up so that it acted as my screed. So pulled my concrete along using the box section there as a guide, and then all I have to do now is I have a bit of uni strut in there. I'm going to pull that out there now, just make sure that's nice and clean, and then I'm going to replace that with slotted uni strut, so it'll be my kind of super duper eco drain. And then in the same pour I got the base of the gantry crane in, so about 2 cubic meters there. It's sort of slobbered either side, but there's a good core of concrete in there, and that plate, believe it or not, is sitting about 50 mil above the finished floor. So when the uprights are in and the sheeting is on, we can fill this up a bit more, bring it up to floor level, which is going to be, like I said, 50 mil below that. So we'll do nothing with this because there's more concrete going down top of it, so if it's fairly rough we can put some starter bars in there and bring that up. Not much point in finishing it, but I do need to finish this here. So I've got my little step down where I'm going to build my block wall for the gable end of the shed, which I'm going to have hopefully an EV battery on the outside, and the rest is going to be clad in insulated cladding around the 4 sides, 2 sides. Front is going to be a sliding door on that way. So we'll do a little time lapse of finishing that off, and hopefully the midgies don't finish me off. Here we are, the next morning. I didn't get a chance to do any footage of the final finishing because the little midgies were out, and they were out in force. And to be honest, I kind of give up a bit. I said good enough for what it's going to be at. You can see there's a couple of marks there on the float. It probably needed a bit more time before I floated it, but one thing I learned is that he really needs a good tamping. I kind of just seesawed the screed off that more or less, and I didn't tamp it enough, so the little stone ends were too close to the surface. So I suppose a pro tip for the future is to get it well tamped, get the kind of cream up to the top and force down the stones. But yeah, I mean, it has pleasantly surprised me this morning. Wouldn't be my thing, wouldn't do a whole lot of concrete work. I have a lot to do in this job obviously, so it was a bit of an experiment or a bit of a learning curve, but yeah, I'm happy with that now. So now it's been a small bit of time. Just busy doing other things. But anyway, back to my own shed. And I'm making the frames up for the generator shed. I actually put one together last night. And you know what? It's amazing sometimes you just make a tiny bit of progress with a project and it kind of inspires you to do more. So that's what I'm at this evening. I'm making the second one. And basically, going to be 2 gable frames, going to be joined up with purlins, and then this little shed will tie in with the overhang over the container. So the frame that I'm taking up on the ground is going to join up to this 6x3 timber here, and then the roof on this generator shed will tie into the roof over the container, which eventually will tie into the big roof here. But you got to start somewhere, so we're starting here. The plan is then to place the generator there once I've the fabrication work done, get that housed, get my ventilation, get my exhaust, get my electrical connection, all that sorted, and then I can't see with the bush, but basically I'm leaving a gap so that a sliding door will seal off the whole shed and also kind of help with noise prevention. And obviously all that steel that I'm temporarily storing there will have to go eventually, but that's the plan. So it's been a little while since I did anything on my little shed project here, and it's safe to say the whole place is looking a bit sorry for itself. But you know, as with all projects, interest wanes and peaks, and look, life just got in the way. There's a few other things on, so today we're about to change that. So I got the chance to cut down a tree that was going to be in the way, God, about 4 months ago. So going to clear all this up. I had made up my 2 frames for the either end of the generator shed. That's what this pad is for. So we got all that cleaned up, and I'm going to try and see, can we do a bit of the roof here, because I put up this sorry looking tarpaulin there during the summer, and it worked really well for a while. I had this outdoor space to work on, but the weather took its toll. So yeah, just trying to roll up the sleeves now, work off the festive dinners, and clean this place up a bit. So now, got a good bit done yesterday. Got a lot of stuff cleared off the pad here, and then down here I took a lot of timber, a lot of old ivy. So at least now I can walk behind the container, because I'll need to do that, because once I'll explain in a minute, but once I close all this off and sheet it, the only access I'll have to this side of the container is going to be by coming around the back. But yeah, tree is no longer a threat to the generator shed. So the plan for today then is gorgeous winter's day. But I got these two frames made up, and they are, one second now, I'll just reposition myself. So I've got my pad here where my generator is going to go, and I've got a frame here and a frame here, and that'll be my gables, and I'll run some purlins, and that'll be support the sheeting on the sides. So I'm going to weld these two box sections here onto the base frame, and then I've got a timber running overhead that is going to, take it out, well, that's going to, I'm going to push this out a small bit more. That's going to connect to the other frame, and then the doors for my generator shed are going to run on a slider here, so that timber will be, put another timber behind that, and that's going to be like my eaves timber for the roof of my shed. Again, I might do a bit on the computer just to kind of show you exactly what I mean. But that is the plan for today. So I've got the front frame in place there just because I need to figure out the exact location of the two box sections. So take some measurements there now. I'm going to clean these two areas here for welding, and then we can do the same at the far end. That's the planio. Got the little Moza welder ready to go. So now, as you've seen there, that did not go exactly to plan. Now, it's only out by the tiniest bit, as the fellas around here would say, the towing of a tow. But what I might do is, I'm going to cut that one off again, and I'm going to slip it up inside the leg, between the bucketed loader here, and that one there. We'll get it where I want it to be, and I will tack that in place then. So, that is plan B. So we have one in place, so that plan worked. I put the frame down in and welded that one then up in place with the sleeve on, and I've already moved on to the second one. So for this one, we're going to have some cladding quite close to the, well, it's going to be right up against the frame here. So I've cut out the back of that. That's tacked in place. It's the same measurement from there to there as it is the far side. So fingers crossed that's right. And now we're going to try and put this frame in upright to mark the other one. So that's clamped in place. And I really should have asked Santa for a new set of clamps. I bought these on eBay, but they're quite worn, hence the price. But the old vice grip is holding them in place, stopping that jaw from sliding. But anyway, next steps are then I have to cut the back arse out of this one, or the back side of it, so that it slips in. And I have to make a bracket for up there to bolt this, the top of that to the timber. So, after a few mishaps, we've got everything up. Yeah, the joys of working on your own. So that wooden prop at the moment is keeping this beam plumb, because I won't lie to you, I did give it a bit of a tip with the cherry picker when I was cutting down that tree. So that's another problem we have to solve. But anyway, I've got my two frames in. I've got them packed on either end. You can see that there as well, because they're, I think I had that frame sitting slightly back so that any spill of diesel or fuel or oil would go back into the drain at the back. So I've got me holes marked for drilling. and I need to mark these holes, and I need to oh look, a blade. Anyway, I have to tack that on there, then take it down, weld it up, and I'm also going to take some measurements now for the purlins. So there's one there and one there. This is actually going to be a curved roof, so I'm hoping that between the back purlin and this wooden purlin, that should be enough. But yeah, on to the next stage. By the way, it's a lovely winter's day, but it's bloody Baltic. So now, while I was welding up the frame there and drilling some holes, I said I would finish welding these two bad boys onto the frame. And it being winter, and that being lovely steel, sorry now with the shaking, I'm shaking my can. Need to paint them straight away because they'll just flash rust overnight, and I know I'll regret it if I don't. So this is the stuff I'm going to use. It's called Zinga spray, so it's a high zinc content primer. I can't zoom in there now. I'll put a link in the bio, but great stuff, really high zinc content, so perfect for touching up where you've got something joining to a galvanized frame or you're repairing a galvanized joint. Recently I got the generator lifted into place, so that pad was all finished before. Generator's now in place. Might have to play around with the position a small bit, but it is where it is for now. But my next logical step is to sort out the top of the container here, so we'll just go up there and have a look. So the plan is to run a timber along here. That's the cleat for it there, and it'll go to that cleat, and eventually another one that's on that frame line against the hedge. That'll be the bottom of my my sheeting. I've got a purlin attached to the new steel here. I have another wooden purlin here, and basically I'm going to have a roof over the top of the container here. I'm going to pack it with mineral wool insulation to give me a bit of stop some of the heat from getting away or some of the cold from getting in, some of the dampness, and basically run off the roof here onto the sheeting and into a gutter. But so I'll be covering up the top of this container forevermore, and as you can see, there's a bit of a water problem. There's bits of corrosion. Actually, it's not as bad as I thought now, but I do want to give this a coat of paint before I do anything else to it, because I'll likely never see it again and I don't want it rusting through. And there's a couple of spots where are particularly bad. I'm going to give them a coat with some rust converter. So we'll get cracking at that. So now, nice bit done there. No, it's no sandblasting job, but you can see even on the heavy rust, it's done a good job. So we'll use the rust product on those bad areas. I think we'll just paint the rest of it. And you might be asking what I'm using. So it is just the good old 9-inch angle grinder and brush. I'm going to get a smaller angle grinder in the morning now to get in some of the tighter spots. But yeah, just you know, give the angle grinder a rest every once in a while. I don't need a rest, I'm fine. No, chiropractor will sort me out. And then for PPE, I've got this full face mask. It's seen better days. I have a new one coming actually with peel-offs in the front, but we'll just give the grinder a minute or two now. Just a minute or two, and we'll get this last part done, and then we can paint the bad bits. So it's the next day after I put the rust inhibitor on the top of the container. Excuse the wind. It's supposed to be a great couple of days, but it's a bit shitty. No, it's not. It's cloudy and windy, but it's actually relatively warm. But that's the finish there now. It's really like a fine varnish on top of the metal, and it's I suppose the property of this stuff is that it's highly viscous. You know, it's really thin layer. Now it does stay tacky for a long time, and you can even see here now where it's pooled into a bit of a pool of oil. And the exact product is called, I can't pronounce the name, a water oil. But you can see here it's a paint, conditioner and rust inhibitor. So you can actually add this to the paint if you want, or you can just paint it on like I did. And I suppose it's really thin, and it's really good at getting into crevices and all that kind of stuff. It's not a rust converter per se, it's a rust inhibitor. But for this little job now, I found it very good. And we do have it up on the website. I'll put a link in the comments. And now we need to go and put some primer on here. So this is some yellow primer I got for the tractor a couple of years ago. It still seems pretty good, just needs a good mix because it's a bit thick. And I couldn't find my paint mixer, so I made a homemade one, which was absolute scrap. So I've invested in a proper paint mixer. So we'll get this mixed up, add some thinners, and go and roll on the primer. So now that's first coat on. Didn't go Jared's plan. I suppose the only thing with the roller, the great thing with the roller is there's very little over painting or over spraying, but sometimes coverage is a bit hard because you roll over it again, and you can see here where it. So anyway, long story short, it's going to be a second coat. And actually, I found here that the one of the handiest ways of doing it is actually just to pour a bit of paint on and then roll over. So that is the first coat. But what I think I'll do is I'm going to do my bits of steelwork and welding next. I'll paint them before they go on, and then I'll give the whole thing a paint when all the steelwork is done. That's the. So, paint is dried. Next day is a lovely sunny day. I've gathered some more supplies, and what I need to do now is set up the line of timber that's going to go along the edge of the container there. And it's also going to support a sliding door that's going to cover the front of this little container shed that I've just hastily thrown together for kind of figuring out purposes. And I suppose ideally I want to fall, go from this point right to the back of the container that'll take the rainwater away, because part of this will involve a gutter, and I don't want to use a laser, I want to use something else, and it's going to be a line with a line level, but line is, you never put it back the way you wanted it. It's always in a friggin' bowl. So I may sort that out, and then I'll show you, I'll get everything set up and I'll show you the line level, not line laser, line level. So now I have my line tied off to the cleat at the end of the shed there. And then if you follow the line, you'll see it just goes under the steel for the canopy support. It goes a nice bit under the cleat I temporarily welded on before. And goes on to kind of a temporary I have here with clamps. And the line level simply hangs on the line itself. You can play around with it. And if you want to see, if you want to go up or down, you just move it. Now, it's only as accurate as the line is tight, but you know what? This is pretty much how the world was built before lasers and other paraphernalia, so I think it'll do for an old shed in Roscommon. So now, up on my newly painted roof, I've got this bit of channel which is going to support a bracket to take the other end of that timber, and it'll also follow on behind me here. And now I want to measure the distance between the line and the channel iron here, so I can weld on this cleat before I come up, and I'll have that part done. But unfortunately, as you can see in my in front of you there's a bit of a bow in the container. That's quite normal because there's a big dent in it up there. After all, I did tell the man in the container company I wanted a scary yoke because I knew I'd going to be roofing over it, but sometimes probably worth paying the €500 extra for something fairly straight. But anyway, that's not a problem. And then the ratchet strap is just to, again, the beauty of string. I found out there was a bit of a bow in this assembly here, so I've pulled that out with the strap. I'm going to weld. When I get this fabricated and cleaned up, I'm going to weld that to the container. I'm going to weld that into the container, and then I can weld that to that, and that'll stop the bow. Simple. And then all the time, my little line level, my €5 line level is doing its business there, hanging off the string, telling me where everything is. So I'll measure this here now. We'll go do a bit of fabrication. So, to do a bit of work and a bit of cutting, I've got to turn on my Jenny. Now, she hasn't started in quite a while, but she's sitting in her new home, so we'll just do that. Turn on her isolator. We've got lights. Open her door. Now, I didn't leave myself much room here, but there's enough room to get my hand in. Manual. Jenny on, with the steel lined up. I'm going to use my favourite tool in the workshop, the power hacksaw. Now, what many people don't know is that power hacksaws are actually living and breathing items, and they need a bit of an old drink before they start up. I like to use the old lawnmower oil, but really they're not that fussy. They'll take any oil. Yes, I'm making a dog's dinner disc because I'm trying to hold the camera and pour some oil at the same time. But you get the idea. So, once they've had their drink, nicely lubricated, ready for off. Ah yes, look at her go. You just watch that all day long. So, got my piece of channel cut and I have it mocked up there. I have a cleat welded on there for that timber there, and I have the cleat there welded on for the side. Just noticed a problem. The bolt holes mightn't work. Okay, so what I might do is I might drill 2 holes at the bottom and use coach screws instead. Okay, good to know. Good to know. Small bit proud of the container, but I'll just shorten that end a small bit. We should be fine. two pieces made, my channel, and I just put the one for the far end onto a bit of box section. So let's chip off a few welds and see how we get on. The setup I was using was my my Jasic TIG, which can be set up for arc welding as well. I suppose I used arc because it was handy. I'm hoping to actually have a big welder in the van. It has to come over there tonight. Hopefully get that set up inside here. I built a MIG weld then, as long as there's no wind. But that's not a bad weld there now at all. Possibly needs a tiny bit too much current. And then I've got this arrangement at the edge where the cleat falls down over the container. It's really just for placement purposes, really, more so than strength. It'll still get welded either side as well. So need to drill a few holes in this one to secure the timber from the bottom. Drop paint, and I think we'll call it even for that then. Now we're about to go up and set up our steelwork, but wood is very important for this next step, and you'll see why. So it is a lovely bright morning here, and I have, even though it's not that obvious, I have our piece of channel iron that we made up set up here. I have the other bracket set up at the end. My line remains the same, but my problem is that there's a bit of bounce in the top of the container. And idiotically, I thought maybe, a couple of concrete blocks placed on the steel might just weigh it down, but you can see there's quite a gap there, and there's quite a gap here. But here's where my wedgie friends come in. So what I did was, and there's loads of examples of this in steelwork, but I made a kind of a bridge. I'm going to jam my wedge in underneath, and that's going to push my channel down. When I have this side done, I'll cut that off. I'll reapply it up there and do it there. It's a bit of work, but it will get the job done. Simple wedges. Now, our wedging is complete. We're good with the string. Ready to weld. Now, it is kind of warm today. It's fairly warm to be so on with fire, but I'll show you what I've done now. So we'll just stand back here. I'm standing up on top of the generator. You can see I have my string line. I've got a cleat here at the corner with a hole that I can get with the with a bolt in the December to mind that temporary one. Sorry, that temporary one. It's going. I've got the one where my two timbers are going to meet. I've got another cleat. Come on now, focus. Another cleat there where the end of my door track is going to be, and I have my last cleat that my string is tied on. So I have to be a little bit careful because nylon rope and sparks and heat don't mix. So I have everything tacked up there now. So all I got to do is weld all that up. So I'll take down the line for that and save it for the next job. So the welding that's left to do is primarily vertical welds all the way up along the cleats all along. So as my little Mosa welder, you probably heard it there, it's in on the ground behind there on the long extension. So we get all that set up, get this welded up, and we're ready to go clear all this crap off the top of the roof and paint it while the fine weather is still here. And then when that dries, we can put up our timbers. And then I move on to the next job, which is going to be to order the sheeting and make up the door track. But that's a little bit long yet. So now that is our fully painted roof, and as you can see, the weather took a bit of a turn for the worse lately, and it's full of water. I suppose I'm asking myself a question: should I do something with that dip, cut it out or something? But we'll see. But this morning's job now is to try and get all the timbers on and get this ready for sheeting. So I've offered up one timber here. I'm walking on top of my generator here. So it's protruding a small bit out there because there'll be a block wall there. And I have one problem, so change things slightly. So I need to move down this cleat and cut that box off flush. I think I'll probably take these frames down, give them another clean with a brush and a paint. I have to put on my timbers on there. But unfortunately, I have found a glaring problem. So to get my upright plumb, I had to undo the bolts there and do a bit of measuring. So somewhere along there I made a mistake, but we'll deal with that later on. For now, we'll concentrate on the timbers, these frames, and getting everything ship shape for cladding. So I fitted some of the timber, and I fitted actually two of the timbers. Still have to do the purlin over here, but I had to fix the problem I showed you earlier before we do that. But we'll just keep motoring on. But basically, so the top of the shed is going to have a roof. It's going to have sides all around, and then I want a sliding door in the front because I want to have a fuel tank here. I may even have some paint storage space or something else flammable, maybe a wall in between that and the generator. But anyway, I want a door that can slide out of the way, and I don't know if you can see there, yeah, slide right down by the side of the container. So I need to fit a track, and I'll show you my plan. So excuse the crude model here, but so in a normal world you'd have a bracket like this that your sliding door track fits into, and it would fit on the face of the timber. Now I suppose you could turn it around, but I'm just conscious this door is going to be quite heavy, and I didn't want this kind of twisting moment. So normally when it's on this way on the face of the timber, it has something to push back on. But so anyway, we're not doing that. We're going to do this. So this is another way of mounting sliding door track. Now it doesn't involve welding galvanized, but I'll go to that in a minute. So I'm going to weld the door track to this galvanized box section, which is the full length, 7.5 meters. And then we're going to weld angle brackets to the top of the box section to bolt it through the timber. I know you're saying that's the same thing, Paul, but no, I'm going to alternate the brackets. So one will be turned this way, one will be turned that way, all the way along. So what I've done is, the welding of the galvanized. So number one, the first thing is prep. You need to strip back as much of the galvanized as you can. And I have a really good high zinc primer that we can paint with afterwards. So I've gone along and I've marked where I want to strip all the galvanized. So we'll do that both sides, and then we'll weld it. Then weld on the brackets, and then we'll prime all the welds. I might even paint the whole thing. It's going to be under a gutter, but you see lots of door track rusting to hell around the country. But anyway, we'll get to the welding. So, have her ground out and ready for welding. I'll just show you what I use. So, I didn't use this grinding disc to clean the welds. What I used was what we call a fibre disc. So it mounts onto a backing pad, but it's really good at taking away just the galvanized without gouging into the metal. So if it all set up and clamped, I'm going to tack this one on, and then I'll tack on the little piece at the end, because this is 7.5 meters. The track comes in 5s or 2.5, so we'll have 5 and 2.5. So that's what we'll do. Now, that's all welded up. There is a slight bend in it because there was a bend in the box to start with, but I'll weld on the side outside the bend, and that'll contract and pull it back. But anyway, I'm not too worried because it'll be going up along the timber with the brackets, and it'll all straighten itself out. But, so, looking at the welds there, the key to galvanised welding is cleaning off the galvanised, because if the galvanised is there, it's only going to it's only going to mess with the weld. There's a better term for that, but you can see here, if you haven't cleaned it properly, you won't get a proper weld pool. So cleaning is everything. Now that's her fully welded, and one second now. One thing I forgot to say, and I didn't do when I was tacking up, was the PPE. So if you're welding galvanized, you should always be doing it outside, or at least somewhere well ventilated, and use a mask, because the fumes are quite toxic. Very, very toxic. Heavy metals. The more I've done this, the more I'm thinking that I'm going to I'll show you the difference here between the two metals, so it might not be quite apparent, but this is, the bottom part is hot dipped. The top part, I don't know what it is, it's a lighter coating. So I think what I'll use is, I have some etching spray in there. When I have all the other brackets on, I'll etch it, and then I'm going to paint it, and then it's job for life. Now, so the next stage is to mount the track on the timber. I have an offcut here just to show. So I want to weld on these angle cleats, and they will go on this side of the timber. And like I said before, I'd just be worried about the track coming off that way, so I've got these brackets then to go on the other side. So to make this, obviously I have to bend it. You might be asking why I don't just use a piece of angle, but I need one leg. I need one leg to be an awful lot longer, so I decided to make it out of flat, and I'll show you why in a minute. Now, I don't have a rec press or access to one, and I didn't fancy bending that in the vise. That would be a bit much to ask of the vise. It's going to do it the old-fashioned way. Now, so the weather has changed. but last night before the heavens opened, got a chance to paint the door track. So I used an etch primer for the galvanise, and didn't have time to really set up my my spray system, so I just used rattle can. I'll be honest with you, it's not hectic. Weather is actually supposed to improve today, so gotta be cracking on. So we're going to do something inside the container workshop this morning, and hopefully this murk will burn off, get a bit of sun, things will dry out, and we can properly spray that, and then look at fitting it. Because the roof is ready in DG roofing, so I need to get my arse in gear, and then at least I'll have this covered. I have a little working area here to work in, and I can start on the bigger pieces of the Lego puzzle. So into the workshop we go. Bending with the heat worked really well on the brackets for the door track, but only a kind of an okay result for the stainless steel brackets. Probably because I'm starting with something that's already folded. Like, normally if you were doing this with heat, you'd have a little jig set up on the bench, and you'd probably start here, and you'd heat these corners, and you'd pull it around the different points. So we don't have that option now, and also the heating nozzle burnt out. So show you another way, and still don't need much machinery. Plan is we'll make an angle grinder cut here, an angle grinder cut here. We'll fold it, should be soft enough then to bend, so fold it down, and then we're going to weld it up. So we could use TIG, but again I'm trying to keep this low tech, so I got some things called 29-9 rods. They're not stainless steel rods, but they will weld to similar all sorts of metals, so we'll arc weld them, which is something any of us can do. So we'll set up and get ready for that. So I've got two done. You can just see there what I've done. I've cut in and then bended in the vise. So this one, because it was sort of half bent, didn't need a very deep cut, but this one did. So I have the confidence now to film it that I know it's going to work. I'll just show you the fit. So the fit is quite nice, very nice, compared to, I think we'll have to doctor this one a small bit to make it work, but yeah. They came out quite nice actually, and that wasn't a big drama of a job. It was a bit of a distraction. Probably could be doing other things, but had these stainless steel brackets. Don't know where I came across them. I have more for the other parts of the shed, and yeah, you know, they're going to be there forever. And the 69-9 rods worked out perfect. Nice speed on them as well, like so. On to the next one. How are you getting on? What's wrong? For once in my life, someone arrived at the right time. Now we got the track lifted in. I won't say how, because it wasn't it wasn't very safe, but it's hung there now, and I think it's time to get an old friend to get it rightly into position. I need a breather after that. With a bit of help, I got the track in and sort of held on straps, and then between using a piece of timber and a bit of brawn and our good old, now get that right shot, our good old Massey Ferguson with winch got the other one into place, so, or the other end where it should be. And maybe now, just in case you were confused as to the plan, you can see now that the track is in between the container and the generator shed, and the door is going to run that way. Now, it didn't go exactly according to plan. There's a small bit of a fall in that this end over here is lower. But I'm not so sure that's a problem, because, the natural state of that door a lot of the time would be open. I think I'll have a cup of tea and I'll mull that over. I can always drop this down. I've plenty of meat in the timber to do that, but yeah, all the brackets worked out. The measurements. So yeah, happy out now. Bit of lunch and enjoy that feeling. It's been a few days working up to that. So that's it from this episode. I think we'll call it that. The sheeting is almost ready to go on. Covered a lot. We'll see how it comes out in the edit. But next time we're going to be trying to finish the rest of the structure of the shed. We're going to sheet this area here, and with the help of God, we'll have a roof over our heads. Mightn't be finished, but we'll see. So, see you in the next one. Now, as my friend Jerry would say, that's the screw we've been looking for all day long. Not so bad.